Well, welcome everybody, and this is John Craig. We're back for another edition of Walking in Spirit and Truth, and I am so glad that you are joining me today. And I hope you've had a wonderful day and a few days since Shabbat, and I hope your Shabbat was a wonderful day as well. Either way, here we are. We're going to be continuing on in our adventure into the book of Jubilees. Been seeing all sorts of fun stuff so far, very interesting. And so we're going to continue that progress today and see Tammy and Eddie joining us over there in the chat room. And it's great to be with you there in the great state of Florida. And so much we need to dig out, so much that we need to be learning and discover, and there's just never enough time, is there? But guess what? We have eternity. We do. We have eternity to go and learn all of this, dig in, and connect the dots. Won't that be great? And to where we can go and everything that we've wanted to learn, everything we've wanted to know, that we will have the opportunity to do that. Makes you kind of think. In the New Jerusalem, I don't think we're just going to be sitting around on couches all day. I'm just saying. I think we're going to have assignments. Don't you think we'll have assignments? There's so much that we can learn, so much that we can speculate about. But I tell you what, we got a lot to do on this side too, huh? All right. Well, who am I? I am John Craig. My wife and I, my wife Sandi, and I pastor Life of Worship here in Amarillo, Texas. And boy, we've been around for a long time. Just saying, our congregation started in back in 2005. And so it's been quite a while. Yeah, it's been 20 years. 20 years for Life of Worship. Isn't that something? Wow. I was a young man back then when we started. just just playing. Hey, but yeah, we meet and we gather every Shabbat, and we would love for you to join us. If you're in town, come by and be part of our gathering. And where we meet, and or he's like, well, I'm not in town, but how can I join up with you? Well, join us on our Life of Worship Ministries YouTube channel, and be part of the chat there in our online congregation. It gathers with us, and we have the Torah portion that we study out at noon on Shabbat. So that's on Saturday, and we go from 12 Central till about 2 Central. That's roughly about the amount of time that we spend on the Torah portion, and dig into it. And I pray that those that actually are involved find that it's a blessing. We certainly enjoy it here locally, but we would love for you to have to have you be part of that. Also, we have our encounter service. Excuse me. We have our encounter service on Shabbat following our Torah portion. So we end up, we have about an hour gap between the two. And at 3 p.m. on Shabbat, Central Time, we come back together for a time of praise, worship, ministries. And following in a second stream after praise and worship, we have a message. Typically, unless the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, is leading us otherwise, but that is what we do. And we would love for you to be part of that. Besides that, we have, of course, we partner together with LambNetwork.tv, where you're watching Walking in Spirit and Truth right now. And so this is Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time. If you want to join us live and you're catching this on the archive, and you're like, when do you do that? Well, 8 p.m. Central on Tuesdays. And then on Mondays, we have, Sandi and I host together the Monday morning War Room. So that's Monday morning at 7:30 Central. You can join us there. And then where we have time of prayer, people send in their prayer requests to the LambNetwork.tv. And then one other thing, let us reason together on Mondays at 8:30 Central Time. And we go for an hour and a half. And I'm joined by my co-hosts, good friends, Eddie and Tammy Johnson. And so we have some looks into our culture, things that are humorous, things are not so humorous. We have a Torah portion study as well. And then we finish off with some uncensored news. And so uh, we had a great show this last Monday, and love for you to continue joining with us. This is some of the outreach, some of the things that we do at Life of Worship Ministries. So we're ready to begin. If you want, by the way, if you want to partner with us at Life of Worship Ministries, you can certainly do that. You've been kept watching for a while. You've been keeping up with us, and you want to be a financial supporter. You want to be a prayer partner with us. You can certainly do that, and you can go. I'm going to put up the website here at www.lifeofworshipamarillo.org. That's where you can find out more about who we are, and as well as there's the tab for donations. You can click on that and donate online. Our physical address is also listed there if you choose to mail us, and our email address as well. And then we also have Sukkot coming up, and you can register online if you want to come out and join us at Lake Paladuro, out in the panhandle of Texas, out near the little town of Spearman, Texas. So yeah, come and join us. We'd love for you to even be part of our Feast of Tabernacles, or Sukkot. Uh, and we're gonna have a good time. Now that we've got all of the housekeeping things out of the way, I want to go ahead and join together with you and jump right in to uh, the book of Jubilees. It's been an adventure. We went through the book of Giants. We've gone through the book of Enoch. Now we're going through the book of Jubilees. We've gone through other books. We went through 4 Esdras as well. A lot of these, what they consider Second Temple period writings. And yet there's a lot of open-ended questions that make you think, how do you know that those are exactly Second Temple period, like in between the Testaments type of writings? And because they found a lot of the writings in the Qumran caves, and as well as other libraries in the world, by the way. But you think about this, and we've mentioned this before, as we're getting into the Book of Jubilees. Perhaps that's where they found copies. And there's a lot of different, when you look at the writing and you look at the terminology that they use, the experts say that it seems to be, consistent with Second Temple period writings, vernacular, cultural um, vernacular of the time. And yet there's this other element that they were pre-written, and that perhaps pre-written before that time. As in the book of Jubilees, actually, when it starts out, it says this is Moses, and he got this information on the mountain and at Mount Sinai, and then wrote it down for us. Well, it would make sense to me as well as in the Torah, as in other historical writings, that the material that they write these books onto is that they only last so long. That perhaps Moses did actually write it, and he did, and then over the course of time, as the parchment or the lambskin or whatever they were writing it on begins to deteriorate, the ink starts getting too light. Well, then they make more copies and more copies and more copies, and that perhaps starting in the Qumran area, where they found these, or where they connect these things to Second Temple period, that they had fresh copies. So thinking that, well, maybe this is, or they date the copies that they had there to the Second Temple period, but they very well could have been predating that time period, even though that time period is very interesting to me. And we've talked about it a lot at Life of Worship, because there's a lot of things that we're learning, and even in this reading, that they believed, and the people that lived in the Qumran area, those that would consider themselves and called themselves the sons of Zadok, they did. They had the foundation and the foundation, the baseline things that many of us believe, that have been raised in the church, or whatever things that we were taught, and yet we find those teachings in these writings here, when sometimes the New Testament isn't as clear as these writings are. That's why we're digging into it, because there's more information, and they believe that not post Yeshua's resurrection and ascension. They believe these things before his birth. So a lot of consistencies, and you pull these things across, and it gives us some more answers as to who Messiah was, who the disciples were, what they believed, and why we've carried these traditions and understandings and belief systems through 2,000 years. So interesting. I find it fascinating. I hope you do too. So we're going to get right back into it. Last week we didn't get very far, as we're over in chapter 2 of Jubilees. So you can, I'm using the Sefer version of Jubilees that Dr. Pigeon and his translation team have put together for us. But you can find other versions as well. I think in in some of the apocrypha Bibles, that before they pull Jubilees out, you could find it in those type of Bibles. I think the Catholic Church has their version of it, but nevertheless, it is very interesting. So wherever you're at, just follow along. This Sefer version gives us the original names. It throws in some Hebrew words. When I come across Hebrew word, I'll give it to you, and I'll also give you the English, what that is. So let's just pick up. Where did we leave off? Okay, we're going to pick up. We had read through verses 1 and 2, and I'm going to pick up in verse 3, and we're going to go from there, where he's talking about that, talking about on the first day of creation and what was happening, and talking about the heavens that are above the earth and the waters and all the spirits that serve him. We're talking about the angels of his presence and the angels of sanctification and all these different things that we talked about over in the book of Enoch as well. And so here in verse 3 now, it says, he created the abysses and the dark, evening and night, in the light, dawn, and day. So evening and night, and the light, comma, dawn and day, comma, which he has prepared in the knowledge of his heart, and thereupon we saw his works and praised him and lauded before him on account of all of his works. For 7 great works did he create on the first day. And on the second day, he created the firmament in the midst of the water, and the waters were divided on that day. Half of them went above, and half of them went below the firmament that was in the midst over the face of the whole earth. And this was the only work Elohim created on the second day. So here we have the dividing of the waters. So we have the light and day, and we have the dividing of the waters. Now we're going to jump in to the third day, verse 5. And on the third day, he commanded the waters to pass off the face of the whole earth into one place, and the dry land to appear. And the waters did so as he commanded them, and they retired from off the face of the earth into one place outside of this firmament, and the dry land appeared. And on that day, he created for them all the seas according to their separate gathering places, and all the rivers, and the gathering of the waters in the mountains, and on all the earth, and all the lakes, and all the dew of the earth, and the seed which is sown, and all the sprouting things, and fruit-bearing trees, and trees of the wood, and the garden of Eden. In Eden and all, the Garden of Eden in Eden and all. So this is really amazing. So just think about that. Well, of course, Adam was given the responsibility to go and tend the garden. The garden was created on the day that all of these fruit-bearing plants and the wood-bearing trees and all that were created. So here's the garden, right, growing up right in the midst of all that. Let's move on. These 4 great works Elohim created on the third day. So what did he do? These 4 great works. So he separates the water from the land, and then we have the seeds that are sown, we have the sprouting things, the fruit-bearing trees, and the fruit of and the trees of the wood, and the Garden of Eden. So here we got, those are 4 different things created on the third day. And on the 4th day, on the 4th day, like writing in my margin here, on the 4th day, he created the sun and the moon and the stars, and set them in the firmament above to give light upon all the earth, to rule over the day and the night, and divide the light from the darkness. And Elohim appointed the sun to be a great sign on the earth for days, and for the Shabbaoth, and for months, and for feasts, and for years, and for Shabbathoth of years, and for jubilees, and for all the seasons of the years. Now we went into that before. Here it's repeating it, talking about how do you know when to do the feast? Well, you know it because of where the position of the sun is. And isn't it interesting because he appointed the sun to be a great sign? Just keep that in mind, because when we see that he created the sun to be the great sign. So what's that great sign? Because it's pointing out when the Shabbat is and when the feast days are. It's right there. We just read it. Can't really change it around to to mean anything else. But he created the sun and the moon and the stars and set them in the firmament of the heavens to give light upon all the earth, rule. And but it says he appointed the sun. He appointed the sun to be a great sign on the earth for days and Shabbaths, and for months, and for feasts, and for years, and for Shabbathos of years. So we're talking about the Shemitah, the Sabbath of years, and for Jubilees, and for all the seasons of the years. So what was the sun created to do? To be the great sign for our feast days, for our Shemitahs, for all of that. Help us understand the seasons. This is really key in understanding. Did he set the moon to do that? Did he set the moon to, according to Jubilees, he didn't set the moon by which we set the calendar. He set the sun, but from where we are to keep the calendar. And I'm not trying to make any argument here. I'm just saying this is what the text says. So you read it, research it out for yourself. It's very interesting. And if Moses wrote it, um, why would we let a doctrine of man change things? Just saying. And it divides the light from the darkness, and for prosperity, and that all things may prosper and shoot and grow on the earth. Of course, it has that purpose. The sun does have a purpose. We can't grow anything without the sun. These three kinds he made on the fourth day. So he made the moon, the sun, the moon, and the stars. And then, of course, remember what the function of the stars are. If we didn't have the function of the stars, then we uh, wouldn't. It helps us understand what part of the year we're in, because when we look up and we see the constellations and we see that there's a particular constellation sky, then we know that what month we're actually in, because there's 12 constellations that are overhead. One out of 12 is overhead, matching with each of the 12 months of the year. Okay, so it's very important. It's interesting. Those are the signs. And then we get this, they name those stars, and then those stars tell the story of heaven. When you go back and you look at their original meaning of those names of the stars, they tell us the story of creation. Crazy, just wild. But yeah, everything is very important, and not, like I said, not enough time to learn it all. And then we don't even, and then we ignore the stars in heaven because many of us live in cities, and the city lights wash out, the stars. We only see kind of the main stars because of the light pollution at night. But nevertheless, let's go on. And so he made all those on the fourth day, and on the fifth day he created great sea monsters in the depths of the waters. For these were the first of things of flesh that were created by his hands. The great sea monsters. These were the first things of flesh that were created by his hands. The fish and everything that moves in the waters, and everything that flies, the birds and all their kind. See, we're going right along with the Genesis account, talking about on the fourth day that the swarming things, whether it's in the sea or above, those were the ones things were made, these animals, these creatures, creation. And the sun rose above them to prosper them, and above everything that was on the earth, everything that shoots out of the earth, and all kind, and all fruit bearing trees and all flesh. These three kinds he created on the fifth day. And on the sixth day, he created all the animals of the earth, and all the cattle, and everything that moves on the earth. Okay. So he created the beasts. They're all over the earth. And after all this, he created man. And a man and a woman, he created he them, and gave him dominion over all that is upon the earth, and in the seas, and over everything that flies, and over every beast, and over beasts, and over cattle, and over everything that moves on the earth, and over the whole earth. And over all this, he gave him dominion. All right, now we talked about this on Shabbat, and talking about Adam's role, because a lot of times we like to maybe unwittingly, uh, we might say, well, who was Adam? What was his role on earth? Well, he was to tend the garden. He was to guard and protect it. He was to watch over it. He was to name the animals. He, all that sort of thing. But what we need to understand, this like number one thing to understand, is that he was given dominion. Who in the world today is given dominion, or over the ages, who are the people that are given dominion? Those people that step in to a position of royalty. We can call them royalty. Maybe they could be elected and put in that position, but nevertheless, the one who sits in a position of power and authority, who is literally has dominion over his or her kingdom. So think about that. This is Adam's responsibility. He was made the king of the earth. Yahweh gave him dominion, and he failed. He failed in that role. It was usurped from him, and by a decision he made, of course, things fell apart. So let's go on. And it wasn't until Yeshua, because I mean, how else did Hasatan go and meet Yeshua? If we look at that, we can look at that over at Luke chapter 4. You want to look at that with me real quick? Luke chapter 4. Luke, where are you, Luke? Let's go back here. Luke chapter 4, and where Yeshua, what they call the temptation of Yeshua, but where it says, and Yeshua full of the Holy Spirit, so he's full of the Spirit of God, the Spirit of Yah, returned from the Jordan and was led about by the Ruach, by the Spirit, in the wilderness for 40 days, being tempted by Hasatan, the devil, El Diablo. And he ate nothing during those days, and when they had ended, he became very hungry. And the devil, and Hasatan, El Diablo, said to him, if you are the Son of Yah, tell this stone to become bread. And Yeshua answered him, it is written, man shall not live on bread alone. And he led him up, Hasatan led Yeshua up, and showed him all the kingdoms of the world in a moment of time. And El Diablo, El Hasatan, the devil, said to him, I will give you all this domain and its glory, for it has been handed over to me, and I give it to whomever I wish. Therefore, if you worship before me, it shall be yours. Well, we're connecting the dots there. I know sometimes that might seem rather elementary, but how else? Because when you if you are a New Testament person only and you read that, you're going to have to surmise that the devil was the king of the world, El Diablo, Hasatan. You would surmise that he was, but now we know where it came from when we connect these dots, that Adam was given dominion. He ruled as king on the earth, and so that happened on the sixth day. Verse 16 over in Jubilees chapter 2. And there were altogether 22 kinds, 22, like 22 kinds. And he finished all his work on the sixth day, all that is in the heavens and on the earth and in the seas and in the abysses and in the light and in the darkness and in everything. And he gave us great sign. Wait a minute. That was verse 18. But wait, before we get to that great sign, I think what the author of the book of Jubilees, who is said to be Moshe, he's saying everything was done. Just saying everything was done. I mean, but he said in quite an expanded way. But everything was done, and so we get to verse 18, and we have the great sign, and he gave us the great, say great sign, the Shabbat. It really sets it apart right there in the writing. Now, if you're reading from a different version, I'd be very interested to hear what it says. But it says he gave us a great sign, the Shabbat, that we should work 6 days, but guard the Shabbat on the seventh day from all work. Okay, wait a minute. So let's pause and talk about that. First off, it's talking about guarding the Shabbat. Well, we know that Adam was supposed to guard. But think about this, and he gave us a great sign, the Shabbat, that we should work for 6 days. But Adam's role was also as king, that in a kingdom he has dominion over. And so not only is this a great sign to guard, but it is a place where we that is given to us as kings to rest, to be set apart on. Very interesting. The weekly Shabbat is the highest of all high holy days. Yeah, I mean, it accentuates it there, doesn't it? I see that comment in there, Tammy, and that it accentuates that. It doesn't come out and say it's Passover or the first day of unleavened bread or Shavuot or Yom Teruah or Yom Kippur or Sukkot or the eighth great day. It doesn't say that. It says the Shabbat, the Shabbat, and now we know, and we treat the Shabbat as common because we get it every week, and yet it's a day of royalty. It's a day by where we are connecting with the dominion of Yah, but also not just as the dominion of Yah, but as kings and priests. It's a high priestly role, and it's a high kingly role to observe it this way. And you can't force it on any other day because it was only on the seventh day. And throughout all generations, even on the Catholic calendar, they've always counted Sunday as the first day of the week. And then that Saturday or Shabbat is the seventh day of the week. So don't try to change it. It's the same thing. We're talking about the great sign, which is the sun, by which we determine the days, the weeks, the months, and the year, and the Shemitahs and the Jubilees. And so in the same way, when we boil it all down, everything pivots right here, pivots on the seventh day, that we should work 6 days, but guard the Shabbat on the seventh day from all work. Verse 19, and all the angels of the presence and all the angels of sanctification, these two great classes, he has bidden us to guard us to guard the Shabbat. Wait a minute, let's read these two great classes. So the angels of the presence and the angels of sanctification. We got these two great classes. But he has bidden us to guard the Shabbat with him in heaven and on earth. When you read it in this version, it would seem to me that this is a distinguished royal event that we as his created, as mankind, get to observe together with him. That distinguishing responsibility and role was not given to the angels of his presence or the angels of sanctification. So what are the angels of sanctification? Think about them as the angels of that are the holy angels in his presence that are crying out, holy, 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 day in and day out, never ceasing from their worship. The angels of his presence, those angels that they come and they represent him. So they coming in to get their orders and they're taking it out, representing him. And when they show up, it's as if it is him who is coming to our presence. So, all right, just going on to this, but he's bidden us to guard the Shabbat with him in heaven and on earth. So this is a when you put it this way, we're talking about gateways. doorways, portals, however you want to look at it. We're not talking about a new age version of what a portal is. We're talking about this connection between heaven and earth that happens on Shabbat. This connection and this doorway that opens up is particularly opened on the Sabbath, and it's for us to guard it with Him in heaven and on earth. So this is, when you think about that, what a weighty responsibility. And we think, how am I really using my Shabbat? Am I really making this where I'm completely guarding it from those that would try to ruin it? How many times do we have one reason or another? There's always opportunities to be distracted on Shabbat. So, yeah, Rick, I agree with that. Shabbat shall be a sign between me and my people forever. Yeah, that really echoes. It's right there. It echoes with what it said over there in verse 18. Also, verse 20, what we were just reading on. So, verse 20, and he said unto us, behold, I will separate unto myself a people from among all the peoples, and these shall guard the Shabbat. I mean, how does he distinguish that? Well, we can think about in the course of history that he raises up his own people, and which become the 12 tribes of Israel, but not limited to the 12 tribes of Israel. It's anybody who would join with them. But these become the set apart people that he says, I will separate into myself a people from among all the people. So there's other people out there that's not going to pay attention to any of this. And so I will separate unto myself people from among all the peoples, and these shall guard the Shabbat. So now think about this. If you and I are now part of those people that are separated because we keep the Shabbat, then we're keeping it out of, it's that there's people out there that don't, but we heard him call our name. He separated us to be able to keep the Shabbat. He said, I will sanctify them unto myself as my people, and I will bless them as I have sanctified the Shabbat and do sanctify it unto myself. Even so will I bless them, and they shall be my people, and I'll be their Elohim. Wow. So anybody that's not keeping the Shabbat is not stepping in to that. Really, it's really a special place, this invitation. It's like coming in, it's like we're invited into the middle of his throne room, and nobody else is invited. It's only those that have said, I'm going to keep the Shabbat, I'm going to guard it, I'm going to protect it, I'm going to observe it, I'm going to call it set apart, I'm going to take on this role, this responsibility, and the blessing that comes with it. He says, I will bless them as I've sanctified the Shabbat, I do sanctify it unto myself. Even so will I bless them. So yeah, right. That makes us sanctified. That's exactly right, Tammy. He says, I will bless them, and they shall be my people, and I will be their Elohim. So that makes us a sanctified people because of this active decision that we've made to say, no, I'm going to come out of the earth. I'm going to come out of her. I'm going to come out from amidst the people and be set apart. I'm going to be sanctified. Doesn't mean we're all perfect. It just means we are stepping in to move more and more to that position of maturity. And verse 21, and I've chosen the seed of Yaakov from amongst all that I have seen, and have written him down as my firstborn son, and have sanctified him unto myself forever and ever, and I will teach them the Shabbat, that they may guard the Shabbat thereon from all work. And I will teach them the Shabbat. Because you know what? When the Shabbat begins to resonate within us, we don't see it any other way. It changes us. And where many of us were simply saying, well, yeah, it's okay, we're going to make the shift. They're going to gather on Shabbat, so I'm going to gather on Shabbat. But it's the more that we do the Shabbat, the more we understand the blessing that's in it. So verse 22, and thus he created therein a sign in accordance which they should guard the Shabbat with us on the seventh day, to eat and to drink and to bless him who has created all things, as he has blessed and sanctified unto himself a peculiar people above all peoples, and that they should guard the Shabbat together with us. A peculiar people. Doesn't that sound interesting? That sound like over in the book of Peter wrote a letter about a peculiar people. This is 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9. But you're a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a royal priesthood. There, that means royal. We're talking kingly, a kingly priesthood, a holy nation, a people for Yah's own possession, that you may proclaim the excellencies of him who has called you out of darkness and into his marvelous light. When we think about that, and we think about the this responsibility that you may proclaim the excellencies of him who has called you out of darkness into his marvelous light, that meaning has certainly changed over the years from the time that we began to embrace these biblical values and keeping the Shabbat and all of the other feast days and stuff. That truly it's given us even a more of this incredible respect that causes us to really fall in line with this encouragement to that we may proclaim the excellencies of him. Well, I think that's pretty cool. I may say so myself. All right, with that, I don't know if that was my exact verse I was looking for, but I thought it was pretty good. We're gonna go back to verse 23. So we've been blessed that we should guard Shabbat together with him. And then verse 23, and he causes, I mean, think about that. We're guarding it together with him. It's like Adam walking in the garden. And isn't that what we do? It's like when we get together on Shabbat and we're studying out the word together, and whether it's the Torah portion or it's something else, just think about this. When we're doing that, it's like we're walking in the garden with him. So, and he caused his commands to ascend as a sweet savor acceptable, and he caused his commands to ascend as a sweet savor acceptable before him all the days. Isn't that something? So he gives these commands and they ascend back to him as a sweet savor that's acceptable to him. Well, how does his commands ascend back to him other than we become the voice on this earth that's speaking them back to him, and he finds it a sweet and savory aroma. And it reminds me of the in the book of Revelation, where it talks about the prayers of the saints are as incense before him. So what are our prayers then are supposed to be like? Wouldn't it not make sense that our prayers being as incense, if we read here, he caused his commands to ascend as a sweet savor acceptable before him in all the days, that perhaps when we connect that with the prayers that we see in the book of Revelation that ascend before him, that as incense, it's that sweet savory fragrance, that our prayers are not these petitions of just our coming out of our own head, but in fact they're us repeating his word back to him as we're declaring it over our circumstances. And why would we declare his word over his circumstances? Because he caused us to rule and reign with him. And what better way to rule and reign with him other than to repeat back his words to him, because that is our authority. We talk about the authority of the word, and then we criticize people who are people of faith, who declare Yahweh's word over their circumstances and over their situations and over their family and over their children and all that sort of thing. Why when we pray for healing for somebody, when we pray for deliverance, why do we use the scriptures to do that? Because that's where the authority comes from. In other words, he has caused his commands to ascend as a sweet savor acceptable before him all the days. In other words, we are repeating back to him that which should not return to him void, but accomplishes all that he set it forth to do. His word. His word is eternal. It's everlasting. It it uh, it is always true, because if it wasn't true, it would make him out to be a liar. If he said one thing and then said the opposite the next day, they would both have to be true, because it's impossible for Yahweh to lie. I think that is just really, really an interesting way to see this verse. And it would be really interesting to break it down in from the Hebrew, which I don't have, but nevertheless, considering what the translators agreed to and said, this is probably the best way to define the sentence that at least we know at this point in time. What an interesting concept that um, moves from concept to solidify the use of Scripture before Yahweh when we're praying, when we're worshiping, because we're not only are we saying it back to him because they're good words, but we're also giving it back to him because they're tov. They cannot be improved upon. And because he said it, then we know that he's already in agreement with it. And so that's why he would hear our prayers. We wouldn't, why would we question whether or not he's hearing our prayers if we're in alignment with him, declaring back to him what his already stated will is, to know his good and perfect will in our lives. Going on, verse 24, there were 22 heads of mankind from Adam to Yaakov, and 22 kinds of work were made until the seventh day. So 22 heads of mankind from Adam to Jacob, and 22 kinds of work were made until the seventh day. Because remember, we were going through every one of those days. It was saying, and like in verse 10 of chapter 20 of chapter 2, he said, talking about the sun, it divides the light from the darkness, and prosperity from all the things that may prosper and shoot, grow on the earth. These three things he made on the fourth day. So every day he had made different things, and he numbered it. So now when you add those numbers up, it's 22. And this is blessed. So these 22 kinds of work that Yahweh did until the seventh day. So in 6 days, he did 22 different things, so many per day. And this that were made until the seventh day. This is blessed and holy, and the former also is blessed and holy. And this one serves with that one for sanctification and blessing. And to this, Yaakov and his seed, and to this, Yaakov, Jacob and his seed, it was granted that they should always be blessed and kedoshim, holy ones, or sanctified ones, of the first testimony and Torah, even as he had sanctified and blessed the Shabbat on the seventh day. Well, that's I mean, 22 heads of mankind from Adam to Jacob, establishing the generations, and then finally coming up here where it says that of coming to this place of the first testimony in the Torah, even as he had sanctified and blessed the Shabbat on the seventh day. So now we're elevating this Torah, these instructions, this that was handed down to Moshe on the mountain, that was given to him, that he recorded for us, and saying, this is really important. This is a really good thing that we need to be paying attention to. And he says in verse 26, he created heaven and earth and everything that he created in 6 days. And Elohim, he made the seventh day holy for all his works. Therefore, he commanded on its behalf that whosoever does any work thereon shall die. Whoa, wait. What? And that he who defiles it shall surely die. Wait a minute. Does that not remind you of something that was said in the garden? And maybe that by chance the Shabbat is connected to the eating of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil? Because didn't the enemy come to Eve? And she said, I can't eat of that, and I'm not even supposed to touch it. I'm not even going to look at it because I might die. He said, I'll die. And the serpent said, you surely shall not die. Wait a minute. But whosoever does any work thereon shall die, and that he who defiles it shall surely die. Well, those were the words given in the garden. Okay, let's when we're drawing these comparisons and we're contrasting here, and that now where was that first from any verse chapter 2 Genesis verse 16, and Yahweh Elohim commanded the man, saying, from any tree of the garden you may eat, but from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day that you eat from it you shall surely die. And then chapter 3 verse 1, now the serpent was more crafty than any beast of the field which Yahweh Elohim had made. And he said to the woman, indeed, has Elohim said, you shall not eat of any tree of the garden. And the woman said to the serpent, from the fruit of the trees of the garden we may eat, but from the fruit of the tree which is in the middle of the garden, Elohim has said, you shall not eat from it or touch it, lest you die. And the serpent said to the woman, you surely shall not die. For Yah knows that in the day you eat from it, your eyes will be open, and you will be like Elohim, knowing good and evil. In the day that you eat it. What day was that? Could it have been? Is this alluding to the very thing that Moses is talking about, or maybe Moses, or this author of Jubilees, which I believe is Moses, is alluding back to the garden, that by not sanctifying the command of keeping the seventh day set apart, then it is akin to eating of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Wow. Okay. Wherefore, verse 27, do you command the children of Israel to observe this day, that they may keep it holy, and not do thereon any work, and not defile it, as it is holier than all other days. And whosoever profanes it shall surely die. Whoever profanes it shall surely die. And whoever does thereon any work shall surely die eternally. That's some pretty strong words, huh? Shall die eternally. That the children of Israel may observe this day throughout the generations, and not be rooted out of the land, for it is a holy day and a blessed day, and everyone who observes it and guards Shabbat thereon from all his work will be holy and blessed throughout all days like unto us. Declare and say to the children of Israel the Torah of this day, both that they should guard the Shabbat thereon, and that they should not forsake it in the error of their heart. It's a heart. When Jeremiah talks about the heart as evil above all things, and we really can, yeah. Well, Yahweh knows my heart. He goes, yeah, well, he does, certainly knows our heart. And that it is against the Torah to do any work thereon, which is unseemly, to do thereon their own pleasure. And this is the other part of it. There's a thing about and I know it's very difficult, especially in a country that doesn't observe Shabbat, uh, that when we work for jobs, and it's like forced labor, it's slavery, and they make us work that way. And then it says, which is to do any work thereon which is unseemly, to do thereon their own pleasure, that they should not prepare thereon anything to be eaten or drunk that is against the Torah, to draw water, or to bring in or to take out thereon their gates any burden, all right, which they had not prepared for themselves on the sixth day in their dwellings. And they shall not bring in nor take out from house to house on that day, for that day is more holy and blessed than any Jubilee day of the Jubilees. On this we kept Shabbat in the heavens, before it was made known to any flesh to guard the Shabbat or the Sabbath thereon on the earth. Wow. I mean, this is pretty loaded. It's when you go back and you look and just say about the fourth commandment, that to keeping the Shabbat, and then you put all this in here. It's like, wow, he's given us some insight. This is insight. I think this is insight from the Creator. And the Creator of all things blessed it, but he did not sanctify all peoples and nations to guard the Shabbat thereon, but Israel alone. Them alone he permitted to eat and drink and to guard the Shabbat thereon on the earth. And the Creator of all things blessed this day, which he had created for all blessing and holiness and glory above all days. This Torah and testimony was given to the children of Israel as a Torah forever unto their generations, as a Torah, as an instruction forever. This Torah and this witness was given to the children of Israel forever unto the generation. So think about, but it's for blessing and holiness. Now you think, I know, I mean, I remember before we were keeping the Sabbath, I remember for 4 months straight, I wasn't released. I had to preach on holiness. I was not released from that message until the message was done, basically. And so, and I was thinking about this, and he created the Shabbat for blessing and holiness. And we think about, there's so many different aspects and dimensions of holiness, but really it's holiness is actually just removing those things that are the garbage and the baggage and the belief systems and everything that hinder us, our sins and all that sort of stuff. These things that are hindering us from being in the presence of Yahweh. And yet we find that, we go through the course of the week, but there's something that happens on Shabbat that actually is like, it's as if he takes that stuff off of us when we come into his presence. It's like his presence just purges it from us. I talked about this. I talked about the Yeshua coming, getting off the boat there out of the Sea of Galilee, and he steps on the shoreline, and here comes this man who has legion on him, these thousands of demons, and he's yelling at him, "What have you do with us today, O Son of Man?" And Yeshua then ultimately casts them out. But what is that about? It's Yeshua who's coming into the presence of another man who is just so demonically covered up, but coming in the presence of Yeshua and that word going forth, the man gets free and is set in his right mind. And I think, wow, what is it that we need? What would happen to our culture if we had a Shabbat? Do you think that the craziness of this world might just enter into a true shalom of Yahweh, where there's nothing missing, nothing broken, fullness, wholeness, and completeness? I think that is just something that is something to ponder on, at least. And he gave us this Torah and the testimony as it's a gift forever. And it just makes me think about, how there's one group of people, we're gonna have to close it down. There's one group of people that they don't want us people that are outside of their culture to observe the Shabbat or to keep the Torah. That's just only limited to them. And then it's an exclusive club. And yet here it is. It's anybody who wants to come in. And then we become part of that. And you're always saying, come on in. It's good. Water's good. Just get out of that dark world. All right. Hey, it's time. We got to close it out. It's been great being with you. Hope to see you on Shabbat with us. And we will see you next time. Well, it'll be about 3 weeks from back now. We'll be back in the book of Jubilees. We'll see you then. Shalom.
If you missed today's show or want to watch it again or want to tell someone where they can watch this episode, go to lambnetwork.tv, where you will find this show and all the other live Lamb show archives in the on-demand section of the website. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to tell someone about the Messianic Lamb Network. We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussions, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the LambNetwork.tv website. I'm Sandi Craig, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.